So I'd like to start off by asking the affirmative what exactly you mean by a ban. Are we talking about no further gun sales? Are we talking about gun confiscation? Are we talking about raising the age? What are we doing on the ban? And that leaves many questions open for the public. And he then went on to state that there are no massive school shootings or mass public shootings from the assault weapons ban in 1994 to 2004, but I'm sure we were probably too young to remember that, but I'm sure most of the older people in the room would remember that Columbine was the first school shooting where the media really focused in on these incidents, and that's likely what many psychologists, including Jordan Peterson from the University of Toronto, this massive media coverage is what spurs people to go do these mass shootings at schools, and that's why we have this larger increase because of the way the media is covering them and fantasizing them and posting the pictures and names and making these people essentially famous on the internet. Secondly, I'd like to address two more things. I'd just like to correct my partner. I believe he said detachable magazines and pistol grips have been illegal. I think he meant that they've been invented and in public hands for over 100 years. These things were used in the Civil War, so by saying that they're a modern military invention is ridiculous. And they also state that gun crime is highest in the United States, and yes, it is because we have the most guns. But if we're looking at crime per capita or per citizen, you'll see that we are 11th on the list of westernized countries if you include all violence, not just gun violence. And some of these countries include Belgium, Norway, and Germany. And just a side note that the United States crime rate is going down, whereas these are going up in other countries. All right, he then addressed high-capacity magazines, but in a study from the Department of Defense, specifically the Marine Corps, they took an average of a slightly trained individual 4 seconds to reload this magazine, so I don't see what 4 seconds is going to buy much time for someone in a survival situation. Now, on to workability. We're going to see that during California's mandatory assault weapons ban in the 1990s, people it was not a ban actually, excuse me, they just had to register their gun with the federal or with the state government. But out of the estimated 300,000 in private hands, 7,000 decided to register them. And mainly this is because most gun owners fundamentally believe it is their right to own weapons to defend against tyranny, foreign or domestic, and they will not turn in these weapons. And the federal government has made it actually illegal to have a nationalized gun database in 1986 with the Gun Owners Protection Act. And a ban will not deter criminals from possessing these types of firearms. The National Firearms Shooting Foundation has estimated between 20 and 30 million these assault-style rifles in the U.S., and I do not see what deterring criminals from possessing. These are not going to deter criminals from possessing these firearms because in the name criminal, it implies that they break the law, so I don't see why the government's saying, oh, this is now illegal, is going to somehow change the fact that they're criminals. Moving on, we're going to see this has happened recently in California's latest attempt to curb gun assault rifle sales. Many citizens are circumventing the system simply by adding small cosmetic modifications, all of which do not have any function on the affect the fire rate or stopping power or anything of these rifles. They're simply cosmetic, simply like you can't adjust your stock anymore, or you can't have a certain type of grip, which again has been around for over 100 years, possibly even 200 years. And the definition of assault weapon simply comes from its cosmetics. It's nothing to do with the fire rate or stopping power of these weapons. Average hunting rifles are in fact way more powerful with stopping power, such as a common 308 round or 270 round, whereas most of these assault rifles typically use a 223 round or a 7.62. Now, I'd also ask how they plan to enact this ban. when there are, again, an estimated 20 to 30 million assault weapons in the United States. By the way, in 2012, which is consistent with the average, there was only 322 deaths from this firearm. So to put that into context, that is for every assault weapon in the United States, using the conservative number, 20 million on the small end, that is 1.9 times 10 to the negative 5 per assault rifle per death. That's what we call a statistical irrelevance. It's considered, it's not necessary. It's irrelevant. Next, this will cause many disadvantages for people in the United States, such as there's going to be no protection for law-abiding citizens, which make up a vast majority of gun owners, since 60% of gun crime is committed with an illegally obtained firearm, which would not be in the registry, and they would not comply with that ban either. In the United States, last year, 2.5 million times guns were used for home defense, and I'd like to point out that the AR-15 is the most common rifle in the United States. So questioning how, first, there's no gun registry, how they plan to, if they plan to confiscate, they haven't made that clear. If they plan to confiscate, you have no idea how many weapons are out there, you don't know who owns them, and I have no idea how they plan on getting them. And lastly, this provides more disadvantages for Americans because it takes away their right to defend themselves, such as during Hurricane Katrina, many of these looters and riots during the chaos down there, including in the LA riots. We have many instances of citizens, a specific incident in LA where I believe it was a Korean restaurant, they were posted on top of their store, their property, and no one robbed or burned down their store simply because they had the protection. Thank you.